What are the best teams for LR Gogeta and Golden Frieza? How's it, everybody? Celtic Link here. We are back for another Dokkan Battle video. In today's video, we are taking a look at the brand new Transcendent Dokkan campaign, LR Golden Frieza and Gogeta. And in this video, we are going to break down their best teams, their best link partners, and how to best utilize this character. So let's start by taking a look at the unit and what he's doing so we can understand how to build the team around them. So they are a movie bosses or movie heroes category, key 3, HP 200%, and attack defense 170%, with an additional 50% for transformation boost, gifted warriors, and characters on Inhuman Deeds. On their passive effect in the Golden Frieza form, they are getting attack defense 250%, an additional key 2 per key sphere obtained, damage reduction rate 70%, and for 5 turns from the entry turn, guards all attacks. After the 6th turn, it becomes a 70% chance to guard, and with 4 or more extreme class allies or a movie heroes or bosses ally attacking in the same turn, he has a guaranteed additional attack. For every attack received, he gets an additional attack 150% and chance for one critical hit 10% within the turn. Whenever guard is activated, he gets an additional 20% defense up to 100% permanently. When there are 3 or more superclass allies on the team, starting for the 3rd turn or starting for the 5th turn of battle, if there's no superclass allies, he will change key spheres from AGL and STR to TEQ and Fizz and Int to Rainbow, and then performs the reversible exchange. So basically, the Frieza side here is designed to be used while his guard is up, so you can pop his active skill here and gain that extra attack and defense and critical hit for the turn. And that active skill is a target active skill, which directs all attacks to him for the turn and gives him 24 key and defense 400% for the turn. Now, in order to activate that, you do need 4 extreme class allies on the team, but it does pay off, right? Again, utilized correctly, you're talking about a unit that can easily break 200 million on that single turn that you utilize it, depending on the number of enemy attacks. On his super attack effects, he does buff allies attack by 50% for the turn, while greatly raising his own attack and lowering enemies attack and defense. And then on his 12 key, he is greatly raising attack for the turn while lowering enemies attack and defense. Once reversed exchanged into the Gogeta, things shifted a little. While Frieza is mainly for defense with that heavy offensive active skill turn, Gogeta is pure offense. He gets key 6 and attack and defense 250%, receives an additional key 1 per key sphere obtained. He gets effective against all types and high chance of evading enemies' attack. With 1 key sphere obtained once only, he will fully recover HP, and when there are 3 or more superclass allies on the team, or a movie heroes or bosses ally attacking in the same turn, he gets damage reduction rate 40%. When attacking with 20 or more key, he gets attack 200% and defense 200%, and a 70% chance for permanent critical hit. When activating the active skill or with 24 key, he gets an additional attack to 150% and performs a critical hit. For every key sphere obtained, he gets an additional 5% chance to evade and 10% attack, and all allies defense 10%. For every 5 key spheres obtained, he launches an additional super attack. His 18 key is the his active skill is the Kamehameha, which raises his attack by 540% temporarily, causes ultimate damage, and buffs his defense by 540% for the turn, while changing all key spheres to TEQ key spheres. Now, of course, that is a powerful skill because, of course, remember, he has that nuking passive, so that's an additional 240% attack on the turn that he uses it, while also buffing allies' defense by 240% when using it. And then, of course, that would be a guaranteed evasion turn because he does get 5% per evasion. So he is a glass cannon. He is very much a dodge or die unit. However, the amount of key spheres can really turn him into a pretty consistent dodge character. If you can consistently get 10 or more key spheres, you're talking above 80% chance to dodge, which makes him fairly reliable as a dodge unit. And with certain allies on his team, it is pretty easy to maintain that. Now, his 18 key is opposite Frieza. He will raise his attack defense by 100% for the turn and raise allies' defense by 50% for the turn. So that's essentially, if he attacks first on that active turn, that is a 290% defense raise for his allies. So pretty helpful there, right? Especially in some of these harder hitting fights. So the card is a very neat card. Combined, they make two very powerful units who can hit very hard. Gogeta more on the dodge side while hitting extremely hard and dealing multiple supers. Remember, for every 5 key spheres, he gets an additional super attack. So with 24 key spheres obtained, right, that's already 4 additional super attacks right there, combined with your 18 key and your hidden potential, right? Hidden potential would allow him to deal a total of 6 supers in total, right? So that's actually kind of crazy to think about. On the Frieza side of things, right, Frieza is more a turn 1 defensive monster, but of course having that offensive power on the turn that you use his active skill. There is, some of the hard hitting supers can kind of give him a go for his money in the early phases, but again, that's what the active skill is for. And these units are so well designed that they are almost 2 completely different units, as you can see here, and that's really going to affect how you build the team. So before we hop into the team, let's head on over to our good old friends at the Dokkan FYI, and let's talk a little bit about, right, who the partners are here. So again, shout out to the guys over at Dokkan FYI. Such a useful tool. I love using this when I'm talking about team building and looking to build my own team. I will link this in the description if you would like to check it out for yourself. So if we want to look at the Frieza here, right, again, the very nice thing about this website is it'll show us any and all links, right, and we can even organize it by category. But if we just go with their standard link skills, right, we can see like 6 links on the Frieza side. We're not looking so hot on partners, right? We have 2 uneasy aid banner units. I mean, they could easy A soon, but probably, who knows, right? Even if they do easy A, they might not be the best. And then, of course, we have the easy A transforming Frieza. But of course, this is the transforming Frieza, the 6 link skills. This is the final phase that you're not seeing until beyond turn 6, right? So his only good 6 link partner at the current moment is the Int Golden Frieza, which of course he is from 9th anniversary, and he was already kind of pushing it during the 9th anniversary, especially with super bosses being the way it was. And so he's, he is workable if you're focused on short events where you will be using the target skill, right? Because, he'll be a great partner and won't ever be in danger because you'll probably be killing the boss before it becomes a problem. However, in longer events, he could find himself exposed, which, could land you in deep water. So that brings us to his 5 link skills. As always with link partners, right? Anywhere between, I would say, 4 to 7 is in a good range. Anything lower than that, and you're kind of pushing it, you're going to have to start looking at second slotting the unit and letting the third slot help pick up the links that the first slot can't. But for some units, that's not always an option. Fortunately, Frieza has one of the best slot 1 options who will easy A here in just a couple of days, the AGL Golden Frieza. He also has access to the AGL LR Full Power Frieza. So, he does have some good 5 link options. The only issue here with the AGL Full Power Frieza is AGL Full Power Frieza does not have, has big bad bosses, whereas the TEQ Golden Frieza does not have big bad bosses, right? If we look at his links here, he has Prodigies, Universe's Most Malevolent, Shocking Speed, Strongest Clan in Space, Thirst for Conquest, Fierce Battle, Legendary Power. So like if you were to utilize him here, you're getting everything except big bad bosses and shocking speed and thirst for conquest. So yeah, that's tough, right? He loses out on big bad bosses, and then you lose out on thirst for conquest, which is an additional 15%. So while they can work, it is kind of tough, which is why I honestly This is probably the better unit because while you are giving up this stuff, you are giving up Shocking Speed and Thirst for Conquest. It is paid back in full by the fact that the EZA variation of AGL Golden Frieza is basically a defensive monster and gives you no problems, whereas Full Power Frieza, he's going to have to second slot it, whereas this guy can first slot it, and you can pick up the other two, Thirst for Conquest and Fierce Battle, through other floating partners, for example, right? Will it show us the... oh yeah, okay, yeah, so if we want to look for Thirst for Conquest partners, right? So, I mean, you could third slot this guy, you could third slot this guy, you could third slot any one of these guys here, although they might not be the greatest option. I mean, these guys can still be kind of fun to use. But if we're talking relevant partners, right, this, they would be very good in the short events because they would be, not only would they crazy support, they're never going to be in any danger, right? Kind of the same thing I was talking about with this guy. If we go to the 2-link side, there's quite a few good 2-link partners that could still be utilized to give it, that could third slot option it for him. Slug is still pretty decent. Bojack is still pretty decent on the right setups if you really lean into the Terrifying Conquerors aspect, but you know, it's kind of hard with the team setups that you work with him, so you would have to work him on a different team, which I don't know that we currently have, but there are some options, right, to third slot it to gain those extra links. But really, as I said, you know, 4 to 6 links is pretty good. But this is just the Frieza side. See, where we run into issue with this is when we exchange, right? Because they are such entirely different units, unlike previous tags that we've had, right, their link partners are entirely different, right? On the Gogeta side of things, right, this is what we're looking at, right? He's got your typical Saiyan links, right? He's got Shocking Speed, Fused Fighter, Prepared for Battle, Over in a Flash, Kamehameha, Fierce Battle, and Legendary Power. So, of course, that puts his best partner as the STR Gogeta, which is probably not a great option, but most of his 5-link partners are all very relevant. The Vegito, the Gogeta, the AGL Gogeta, the AGL UI is still very useful, and well, that's pretty much it from here. But the 4-link partners, again, tons of great 4-link partners. The Gods, the Blues, AGL Gogeta 4, the Super Saiyan 4s, TEQ Vegito, STR Gogeta, Namek Goku, right? Like, he's still got a bunch of good 4-link partners, right? So Gogeta has less of an issue with maintaining a partner than Frieza does, right? Because he is, you know, his partners are all pretty much the best units in the game. Like, that's, I mean, just with this, right? Like, if you were to put a rotation, say, with him and LR Gogeta, for example, like, you're losing Shocking Speed and Kamehameha, which really isn't that big of a deal because it's only a 5% loss in defense and a 10% loss in attacks, which is more than made up for because this unit is supporting him through his, not only his passive, but his active skill. So it's kind of a non-issue. Same goes with the Vegito here. He's supporting him as well. So it's really not a big deal for him, right? The bigger deal with him is finding a partner that can be consistent for him, because again, he is dodge or die, so you need somebody strong enough to kind of hold slot 1. If you don't trust him to dodge, or you can't get the key series to give him auto dodge, you need somebody powerful like the Blues or the Gods after a couple of turns to slot 1 it for him. I mean, even, you know, in longer events, you could put, right, the Vegeta side, the Goku side of this guy to slot 1 it for him if you've built up enough, because then, you know, at least he can survive some attacks. So those are the best link partners, and as you see, because the link partners are so wildly different, that really does affect how you can build the team. So let's talk about the teams here. So we're gonna go ahead and switch back over to game here. So let's check out some of the teams that we've built here. So we got a couple different variations, right? Some that focus on his extreme aspect, and some that focus on a mix, and some that focus on, you know, long versus short events. So the first team we have up here is a pure movie bosses team. This is pretty much where movie bosses is at, as you can see, and this is basically the most relevant, most recent movie boss characters that you can run. So I mean, that should tell you what the state that we're in. So currently, right, you have the Frieza, the Golden Frieza. Int and TEQ Janemba still work very, very well. They are a great combo, especially in medium difficulty events. The Broly can still work pretty well on the team here, and same with the Broly Trio. There is enough orb changing on the team that the Broly Trio should be able to consistently get their orbs, and on any turns that they can't, you will be able to activate Frieza's target skill to protect them. So it's a very, very useful thing they got going for them there. So the pure movie bosses team. The second team we have here set up is a pure movie heroes team, and you can see this is the lack here, right? Basically, each of these teams play to the one side of the card. So the movie bosses team is obviously going to play to the Frieza side of the card. You won't be using Gogeta's active with this one. Whereas this side, right, the movie heroes team, you're focused on utilizing Gogeta, since you don't have the 4 extreme allies. So this team, you know, you have your orb changers through the TEQ and the Ant Vegeta if you've got them. Really great orb changer. Some good dodge, right? He can survive most normals, and since supers are rarely in slot 3, at least he's got that dodge for him. And then, of course, you know, you have your Gogeta or your gods to link with one of them. But the basic thought process with this setup is one rotation with AGL Gogeta, and then the other rotation with the gods and Gogeta, and you allow TEQ Vegeta and STR Gogeta to float. STR Gogeta is very, very helpful combined with Frieza and Gogeta's attack line, you know, to mitigate any bosses that allow you to do that. But again, this is what I'm talking about their, you know, them working so wildly different. It is kind of difficult to build a team that utilizes both the Frieza and the Gogeta. As you saw in our showcase, like the sort of the best way to do it is through that team that we built there, which is not ideal. It does not work that well, as you guys saw there. Frieza starts to run into problems the longer the fight goes on. So it can be done, but I don't think that it's recommended to mix the teams, but it can be done. Where Frieza side shines the most is actually on Omega's team. So I have a couple of teams drawn up here. Basically, on Omega's team, he gets the buff from Omega's domain, plus his own buff through the target skill. This is very useful for the special battle fights, where you can utilize the target skill on turn 1 while the domain is active, and you essentially have a I mean, you essentially have a free win in most of these fights because of that target skill. I mean, you're gonna have, if you can pop the target skill on a turn where he is linked with full power Frieza or the AGL LR Golden Frieza while having the domain up, right? If there's enough attacks, you can easily clear 200 million with him on that turn, and you know, take down whatever boss you're fighting. So really, really good team, both of these, right? So one utilizes the full power Frieza, one uses the LR AGL Golden Frieza, but the essential setup is the same, right? You could even swap out STR Omega, since he's not really supporting the Frieza, but he is just a good debuffing unit that works really well on Omega's team. You could swap him out for, like, you know, another extreme class supporting unit. Even that Golden Frieza, you could swap him in, right? And it would still work just fine. Another good team that we have here is the Fused Fighters team. Again, this one plays more to the Gogeta side of things, where you have the movie heroes to proc that movie heroes portion of the passive. And that would allow the Frieza side to keep his regular buffs, just not use his active skill, right? Until you can transform into Gogeta. And basically the strategy with the Blues team is, right, you have one rotation with the Blues and Gogeta, and the other rotation with the Gods and the blues, right? And then everybody else is your floaters here. The other team setup, I think this is probably the best variation, and this one's kind of meant more for more longer events or medium range events, but the AGL Gogeta's team works really nice for them as well. Again, a more sort of movie heroes variant. You would essentially have one rotation either with the AGL Gogeta, Vegeta slash Goku, or Gogeta and the Gods, and then everybody else would float and be your second rotation, which is kind of how I envision it. This team is really good for the 10th anniversary fights, the Goku fight and the Jiren fights especially, and I think it would work pretty well. So they are a really, really hard unit to build around, right? I've racked my brain several times. There just aren't at the current moment. Now, if they start easy-ing some more movie hero units, both super and extreme, it might be a little easier to build around you having both up, right? A team that allows you to use both Gogeta's active and Frieza's active safely, but at the current moment for current content, it's not really an option. It's really hard to have both the 4 and the 3 super and extreme, and have consistency. That's really what it is. Like, you can do it and you can maybe get a win sometimes, but consistency is where it's going to be the issue. That is going to be the biggest issue with this card, I think, for the time being, unless things change by the end of the celebration. But the biggest problem they're going to have is consistency, and you can see that through the types of teams that they have built. But still a very, very powerful unit when you can utilize the variations of these teams successfully. So, guys, one last thing we want to hit over here, and that is the stages that we can best utilize them. So if we head on over to the Dokkan Wiki, I mean, it should be pretty obvious that the Frieza side of things is going to work really well in both the special battle and the Supreme Magnificent battles here. This is where Frieza is going to shine the most, because these are short fights and you can utilize his active right away. And more than likely, all right, if you're running him as lead especially, more than likely they're going to be dead by the end of the turn that you use that active, and if not, you have the active on the other turn to kill the other one. So it's pretty easy utilizing them. And then the same goes for the special battles, right? The special battles you might not kill with the Frieza active, but if you can build that team that utilizes both, you then have the Gogeta active to finish up after that. So they work really well in both of these stages. Where they do not work well, they can work, let me say that, but because of the dodge canceling, Gogeta can find some trouble if he doesn't get key spheres in the later fights of these, right? He does okay because of the attack lowering in the Goku fight, but the Jiren fights can give him some trouble. Now, where I think this, and as of me recording this, we don't know what the final stages of these are going to look like, but based on the way you have to build Frieza's team for mix and matching to utilize both sides of the card, I do think that this is going to be where they are really going to shine, right? These type of teams where you have to have a specific amount of a type of character in order to take it down. I think that's really going to play into what Frieza and Gogeta are doing well. And of course, with the new red zone, it should be a given that this, whatever the final stage is, which is probably going to be the Broly here, whatever the final stage here is, will basically either give Frieza and Gogeta a playground or completely counter them, one of the two. So just throwing that out there. So so guys, that is it for the video. If you guys like our video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And in the comments down below, let us know, what do you think of Golden Frieza and Gogeta? What's the type of team you would build for him? Personally, my favorite team with him is probably the Omega team, but let us know what you think in the comments down below. Otherwise, guys, as always, thanks for watching, and aloha.